Good morning, everybody. It's time for Morning Manna. So thankful and grateful to be with you on this morning. Got some manna for you on this morning. And I'm so thankful that you permit me to be in your life on this morning. I want to ask you to do a couple things before we get into the manna. Remember that the rules of engagements is the rule of engagement is always the text, the talk, and the takeaway. You got to listen and you got to share it. You got to share the manna. You got to take the manna in, dine on the manna. Then you got to share the manna and let us know what you think of the manna so that everybody else can get the revelation that you got as a result of listening to this morning's manna. I thank God for the opportunity to speak into your life, and if it's your first, second, or third time, let us know who you are, where you are, so we can shout you out. It's the text, the talk, and the takeaway. Have you ever had some giants to deal with? Giant-sized problems, giant-sized relationships, giant-sized bills, whatever the case may be. And you say, how in the world do I overcome this? How do I kill this giant or these giants? Here it is. Here's the text. Here's the text. It is 1 Samuel 17:46. You know it well. Let me give you some revelation with it. This day, the Lord will hand you over to me, and I'm going to cut your head off. Here is David talking to Goliath. You know the story well. He's talking to Goliath, and he tells him, look, I'm going to take you out. Here's the talk. Here's the talk about the text of which David is dealing with. How does David kill the giant in his life and in the life of God's people? The first thing is, and the first thing you have to do in order to kill the giants that come up against you, you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. Look at verse 39. Verse 39 says this. David says, I cannot use your armor. Can't use your spear. I can't use your javelin. He's talking to Saul. Remember, after they determined that David is going to go after Goliath, Saul comes over in some helpful way after shaking in his own boots and says, look, why don't you use my armor? David puts his armor on and it can't fit him. I can't use what you have. I have to be myself. You can never defeat anything that you're dealing with. You can never move into the destiny that God has for you. You can never get to where God is taking you, and you can't overcome all of the obstacles that are coming your way being somebody else. You got to be yourself. God made you to be you, and that's the only way you're going to be successful in defeating the giants in your life. Here's the second thing. The second thing is you got to be creative. You got to be creative. Verse 40 tells us, in verse 40 it says that David picked up his shepherd's bag that contained the 5 stones, and he picked up his shepherd's staff as well as the sling. David was going to be creative. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that he's going to defeat the giant? And who will ever think that you're going to defeat the giants in your situation unless you are creative? You got to be creative. Don't think that you're going to get something done doing what you've always done. You can't get a different result doing the same thing. You've got to, at some point, if you haven't defeated that situation yet, if you defeated that problem yet, it's time for you to be creative. Stop going at it the same old way. So you got to be yourself, you got to be creative, and here is the third thing. You've got to be for God. You got to be for God. In verse 45, it says that David says, I'm going after you in the name of the Lord God Almighty. Notice this. He calls God by the name that is appropriate for the situation, the Lord God Almighty. Didn't say Jehovah, he says the Lord God Almighty, and he's going in it for God. Remember this, the giant came against the people of God because during that biblical time, if my giant or my God be your God, then my God is bigger than your God. And Goliath represented the 5 gods and the 5 cities for the 5 stones that David had. And I want you to notice this. When your God wins, you defeat the God of the enemy. It's not about you. It's about God. It's about God. So what's your takeaway this morning? What's your takeaway this morning? Your takeaway is this. It's not the size of your giant. It's the size of your God. It's not the size of your giant. I don't care how big the problem is. Your God is bigger. Your God is bigger. Our God is an awesome God who reigns from heaven above, who lives with power and might. Our God is an awesome God. So go make it a great day. Make it a great week. And know whatever giants you're dealing with, from cancer to bills to relationships to whatever it is, you're going to win because you're going to be yourself. You're going to be creative and you're going to be for God. God bless you. I'll see you next week with more Morning Manna. Share the manna now. God bless you. Bye now.